Moving on to our next very important panel discussion, which forms the backbone of important decisions that are going to be taken in the future in the real estate sector pertaining to the NAREDCO Mahi. And for this, I would like to call upon first our moderator, Ms. Chitra S. Jain, Director, Samyak Properties and Infrastructure Private Limited, an architect planner by profession, VP Central NAREDCO Mahi, a visiting faculty with the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi for the last 20 years and working at the neighborhood level on waste management and civic governance. She believes that sustainable cities need sustainable neighborhoods and has worked on improving local governance at neighborhood level focused on waste management. Can we have a big round of applause for Ms. Chitra Jain, please? Moving on to our panelists. Our first panelist for this discussion is Mr. Nitin Mittal, Chairman, Kinest Haluform. Started his journey as a dynamic, spirited and astute realtor in Pune, a pioneer with a vision and leader with a plan. Today he is revolutionizing real estate construction in India. Please put your hands together for Mr. Nitin Mittal. Mr. Mittal, you've got a cheering squad here. I like that. Our next panelist for this discussion is Ms. Shabnam Bassi, Associate Director, the Energy and Resources Institute, TERI, who is a fellow who is also handling Griha Council activities, which administers the green rating for integrated habitat assessment, United Nations Development Program that she has worked with and has been engaged to implement strategies to overcome barriers related to energy efficiency in buildings sector in the country. A big round of applause for Ms. Bassi, please. Can we have a louder round of applause for our panelists for this panel discussion? Our next panelist is Dr. Ruby Makhija, founder of Why Waste Wednesdays Foundation, who is also a TEDx speaker and practicing ophthalmologist for the last more than 20 years. She has been working with charitable hospitals as a senior consultant clinical head and presently runs a free eye clinic. Can we have a big round of applause for Dr. Makhija, please, and for the wonderful work that she is doing, the philanthropy. Thank you, ma'am. Our next panelist is Dr. Sunita Purushottam, Head of Sustainability, Mahindra Life Spaces Developers Limited, with over 25 years of sustainability strategy and environmental consultancy experience in the areas of environmental impact assessment, air pollution modeling, and meteorology. Can we have a big round of applause for Dr. Sunita Purushottam? And last but not the least, our panelist is Ms. Umit Bhatia, Director, Sustainability Strategy, West Asia, JLL, where she, in her role, is responsible for defining, redefining environmental, social, and governance strategy in line with the client's vision and ambition. She is also responsible for engagements with JLL partners in the sphere of sustainability development. A big round of applause for Ms. Umit Bhatia, please. And this very important panel discussion is going to be on green building and sustainability. Over to you, Ms. Jain. Can we start off with a big round of applause to boost the enthusiasm of this next discussion? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. A very, very warm welcome to all of you on the second panel. This panel on green buildings and developments is not what you really are thinking we are going to be talking about. Just to give a set to where we are actually heading, is green buildings and developments with reduced carbon footprint are an industry imperative today. The spotlight is on developers to deliver sustainable and net zero projects for a reduced carbon future. So I quote from a JLL report that as many as 57% occupiers, they say, have achieved green building certification, and 40% more aspire to have a similar certification for their portfolio by 2025. And as many as 34% respondents say that they are paying a 7 to 10% premium rents to be in sustainably certified projects, and 32 are paying about 4 to 7% premium. So leaving the statistics apart, the SDG report, now coming to the SDG report, the latest report of 2022, on sustainable cities and communities highlights that we need to focus on 4 key areas: affordable housing, access to public transport, municipal solid waste, and air pollution. So this panel is actually going to be concentrating on the last 2, the link between municipal solid waste and air pollution. And I think we all have experienced the lack of management of municipal solid waste and its impact on air pollution, and how we have all been very severely impacted as well. So globally, 82% of municipal solid waste is actually collected and 55% managed in controlled facilities. But in India, though the figure for collecting municipal solid waste is almost close to 80%, we are only managing about 20 to 22% of such collected waste in treatment facilities. So while discussions on green buildings, technologies, materials, designs are so prolific, the discussions on waste management are extremely minimal. So on this panel, we are intending to bring to the table information sharing from local area level initiatives from Dr. Ruby Makhija, role of certification bodies and rating mechanisms. We have Shabnam Basi from TERI, net zero developments, Dr. Sunita Purushottam, and from Mahindra Lifespace, sustainability policy perspectives from Umid Bhatia, JLL, and role of construction technologies from Nitin Mittal, KNest. So the key takeaways from this discussion, I hope, will be valuable inputs for developers and builders and to planners and architects as well. So just moving very quickly to questions, we are really running short on, we're running behind schedule, so I'm going to keep it very crisp. Waste management saves money. This was like a tagline which stuck a chord when I first spoke to you, Umid Bhatia. So I'm going to start with the panel discussion with this statement of yours, and can you elaborate on this?
Thank you, Chitra. Yes, it definitely saves money, and before I speak about how it saves money, it is important to understand the nuances and what exactly waste management is about. Often, when I connect with corporates, organizations, they come and tell me, please tell us about the low-hanging fruits that we can talk about. Not a very favorite phrase of mine, but then I think waste management is a low-hanging fruit, which every corporate, everyone, each one of us at an individual level also should take care of, can easily address that. It is about all the processes and the activities that are required to manage your waste right from the inception. When I say right from the inception, when the product is created, from that stage to the time you dispose it off. There are a lot of steps that are involved in it from the inception. Then there is, you buy the product, then it is, you reuse it or you recycle. Most of the times it goes into the landfill, how you treat the product, and then the disposal active part of it, whether you are disposing of the waste in the right manner or not. This is something which involves a lot of money. Just to give an example here in terms of how the money can be saved, I think food industry is a classic example here. There is so much energy that goes into creating a product, right from harvesting it to manufacturing it, then packaging it, then distributing it, the transportation. There is a lot of energy that goes into it, and a lot of carbon emission that happens on the way. It's a direct environmental impact that's happening. And how much do we actually consume all the 100% food that gets produced? We don't actually. A lot of food goes wasted, uncooked and cooked both. And that is where, if you do it rightfully, in a strategic manner, in a planned manner, then there are means and ways where we can avoid a lot of wastage and make money in the way as well, because then you are not investing money in the first instance and trying to save the cost there itself.
Yeah, thank you. But can you elaborate on how this would apply in the real estate sector?
Even in the real estate sector, like you said, you quoted the JLL report, when you put green leases into action, organizations and the investor population primarily, they become very conscious when they occupy a building. They don't want to, the lease tenure gets impacted directly when they occupy a building. They don't want to get into a building that does not have a strategic roadmap of their own. If that's the case, how the building is getting constructed what is the amount of waste that is getting generated when you're constructing the building. And I'm sure Dr. Sunita would speak more about it, allude more on that front. That is where you club it. Now, there are two aspects to it. One, there are already constructed buildings that we occupy. We just can't demolish them one fine day. And then there's new construction that is coming up. New construction is fairly simple. There are ways and means that you can take right at that point to reduce the embodied carbon impression. In the already constructed building, there are various other means and ways where you can do it and save money also along the way. You can do retrofit, retro-commissioning, then have more open spaces as well.
Okay. Great, thank you. Moving now to Shabnam Basi. Can you kindly, touch upon the criteria in the Griha certification which is related to waste management? And maybe you could also use some case studies to kind of highlight this.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, NAREDCO, for giving Griha Council this opportunity to be part of today's panel discussion on waste. This is, of course, a topic that, we have heard that is very rarely talked about and, is the least, I would say, invested component in a building. So I think I would like to start with a presentation. If you could, I have some slides and I always believe that seeing is believing. And I have put up some work of mine and some work that Griha Council has done to show you where we are and to give you a glimpse of, what and how grave the situation is. So if I could have some slides being put on, please. Thank you so much. So I think, yes. So first of all, where we are, what we do. So we are a rating organization. So Griha is an acronym for Green Ratings for Integrated Habitat Assessment, and we are into this business of rating projects, and we facilitate design, construction, operation of green buildings, and in turn measure the greenness of a project. So this rating has been created on the ethos of what gets measured gets managed. So whatever vitals, even if you are not able to check your own vitals, you will not be able to sure if your health is fine. So similarly, I think even the built environment, we need to have some standards in place. Only then we can see that, yes, the improvement is happening. So keeping that short, so I think what I want to, ask, or in fact, there is a very basic misconception in everyone's mind that when we talk about sustainable buildings and we talk about green buildings, we have to do a little bit of energy, probably a little bit of water, and, a little bit of vernacular, somewhere here and there, and a little bit of greenness in the project, and that is about sustainability. But I think what this slide is basically highlighting that sustainability is just not about these 3 or 4 components. It's a holistic approach. And, if we want to achieve sustainability in the right spirit, then I think the last 4 parameters, that is waste, operations, and even social aspects, they take a very important place in the way, we are achieving sustainability. So, of course, today's session, we are going to focus more on waste. So we all are aware that, when we're talking about built environment, we are basically trying to tackle 2 kinds of waste, and one is municipal waste and one is the C&D waste. In terms of how Griha is looking at, tackling this part of sustainability is that municipal waste is, of course, something that we will look at once the buildings are operational, but what in the process of ratings, we have given a lot of focus is on the C&D waste. So we have given emphasis on the way we are constructing buildings. So, in terms of process, we take care of it process by process, right from design to, operations, and in fact, even during construction, there are various levels that Griha ratings come in, and, we ensure that the compliances are met in the right spirit. So the way we have designed this rating is that what we have done is that, we are the implementing force of the government. So there are a number of policies that are already in place, be it linked to, C&D, be it plastic, be it, any other policy related to waste that is there. But what is missing in this whole link is that the implementation framework. So large part of it will happen only when there are implementing organizations like ours who are looking at how this policy is actually getting implemented on ground, and that is something that is extremely important. So Griha is coming at that stage and looking at various stages and ensuring that sustainability is being met at the right time. So we know that the population is increasing at the right time, and just to give you a few figures, that we are generating nearly 60 million of waste every year, and of that only 70% of it is collected, and even out of that 70%, only, I would say only 12 lakhs is getting treated. So you can imagine the amount of stress that we are giving to landfills. Our cities are not ready for that kind of stress, and that is where the problem is, that in next 10 to 15 years, when the urbanization is going to happen at a very fast pace, we are not ready for it. And, I'm typically talking about, the mindset and the kind of lifestyles that we are leading. We are going to talk about, how we are going to, use our lifestyles, for changing the way the behavior changes. But one very important aspect which we have not looked at is the kind of packaging. The amount of shopping that we are doing online, and, the amount of ordering that we do online, we don't even imagine that, even ordering a simple bottle of shampoo, the amount of packaging it carries and where it goes. We should all be conscious about this, that it all goes to landfill. So in the name of saving time and effort, we are basically, I would say that it's an irony that at one place we are promoting taking our shopping bags, while we are shopping, but at the same time we are contributing so much to these landfills. So this is something quite grave. Talking particularly about C&D waste, from 2 to 15 million tons that we were generating in 2001, we are now generating nearly 100 millions every year. And, we are not even conscious about this going into landfills. Of course, we always say that, if waste is getting managed at the right time, in the right way, then there is not a problem. So basically, right from segregation to, how the waste is getting disposed. So it is not only about putting up colorful bins in your office and saying that I've done my bit, but how do you ensure that that waste gets disposed of, and at the same time, the useful components of it are also segregated. So those are the things that Griha focuses on in quite details. So I will quickly come up to these examples that I will show that, there are set of colorful bins that have been placed, but what we also observe is that when this waste goes back in, what happens is that we just dump it at one place and we say that we have done a bit. So there are very good examples as well, but this is, by the way, a bad example, and this is a hospital building where they were dumping all kind of waste at one place. So this is not only hazardous, but also, you can see that, when this gets mixed with our organic waste, this is not going to in any way be a contributor to, saving environment. This is another example. So waste is something that we may not even look at it in totality, but what we have to do is just ensure that segregation, separation and disposal is something that we should focus on. So I'll limit my conversation here, and I've been asked to stop, but I would like to come back again and talk more about how policies can be looked at. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, Shabnam. Sorry to have cut you short there, but we'll come back to you because I have a second question also for you. So moving to Dr. Sunita Purushottam, what are the waste management aspects that you think can be incorporated in the design stage itself in the project?
So, am I audible? Yeah. So, waste for many architects and the design teams is actually an afterthought. And this is an unfortunate truth. Unless it's mandated into the guidelines, that is the local level building bylaws, waste is an afterthought. And often it is about designing what spaces are going to address the collected waste, so segregated waste. So to make that change, we have to incorporate it into the design, we have to plan for a resource recovery center which manages the dry waste. And for all the compostable waste, we have to provide space for the composting mechanisms. And since we are now building a lot of high-rises, it is about the entire process, which Shabnam actually alluded to through a very nice flow chart, that the entire mechanism of collection, transportation, that is the source segregation, the secondary segregation, all of that needs space. So within the homes, then how does it travel into the lifts, through the lifts or the staircases, and what are the mechanisms and what are the spaces you are planning for all of these. So both in the building design you have to plan for that, and during the construction phase you have to plan it in the logistics part. Again, it is the logistics planning and design of the logistics itself. With the project managers, you have to say, I need this space that will ensure the segregation. So design as well as the logistics planning will address the challenge of space that is required. So ultimately it is material that is getting generated and it has to be stored somewhere. So starting with negative spaces that design teams usually say that, this is the negative space, tell me, can you do it in this? Then we have to fight it out and say, no, I need this much more, and this is how it is going to happen.
Thank you so much. Dr. Ruby Makhija, this question is for you. Can you briefly share the waste management initiatives that you have spearheaded? I would just take half a minute. Dr. Ruby Makhija, I have been working with her and her RWA for quite some time. But it's very difficult for me, in fact, to keep pace with the accolades and the awards that she keeps accumulating for all her wonderful work that she's doing. Just to give you a brief, she's also the ambassador for MCD, and she's a member of the city-level task force for plastic waste management focused on single-use plastic waste, right? And she was recently awarded the Earth Day Network Star. So every time I meet her, she has a new award, and so taking on from there. So can you just share, very briefly on, I know you have so many, and in fact, I was just, telling Dr. Ananta that each of my speakers can actually take a full session of 40 minutes. They have so much to share, so much of information and experience. So it's really difficult for me to ask them to just, make a capsule of a few minutes. But, so Dr. Ruby, over to you.
Thank you so much, Chitraji. So I'm a core worker by heart, and I get a little nervous when the list of my accolades is brought up. I am just doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So as a secretary of this small colony Navjeevan Vihar, RWA, it was just as a matter of chance, no qualifications for the same and no previous experiences. I got this platform and I realized there's a lot of potential in these units, which I would call the smallest unit of a society after the family is a colony. And my forte and my entire work initially was focused on building the communities, bringing them together, making them stronger, making them connected, cohesive. And I'm not a waste management expert, but this particular exercise which I did on community building was what led to waste management achievements also. So in waste management, we created a zero waste model colony, which probably is the Delhi's first zero waste model colony, Navjeevan Vihar. When I say zero waste, won't mean that it doesn't generate waste. It just means that there's no contribution to the landfill site for the last 4 years, and we've saved almost close to 4.5 lakh kgs of waste from going to the landfill site. Apart from this, other things which we've done in waste management sector is dry resource segregation, collection of stuff which is generally usable and it is lying as a clutter, so decluttering and sharing of it, rainwater harvesting, and as Gurmeet sir pointed out, water aerators. So this exercise was done voluntarily by our colony 4 years back, where we placed We motivated our residents to place water aerators and saving devices and leakage alarms in the colony. And yes, as far as domestic help, empowerment, and their biodegradable sanitary napkin programs running for the last 4 years successfully, where we also get a chance to speak with the domestic helps and engage them also into the waste management program. Along with this, with MCD helping them replicate the same model across other colonies in RWAs, sensitizing the RWAs, guiding them, hand-holding them, and making them believe that this is doable. As a CLTF member for plastic waste management, we've launched recently a project 2 years back called Vikalp, where we introduced alternatives to plastic bags in the market. We have 400 stores with over 80,000 bags in circulation. Consumers can borrow these bags from any of these 400 stores against a 20 rupees deposit, return it at any point of time, and take a full refund across these stores. Each bag carries a QR code. Each bag carries a QR code that takes the consumer to the list of all these stores. So it's a very, very focused plan to wean out single-use plastic. Apart from this, awareness activities, but I'll stop here. We have more speakers. Thank you.
And I must add, I think there are also other countries who have approached Dr. Makhija for guidance on how to, kind of replicate this in their countries too. Yeah. Okay. So coming to Nitin Mittal. The first time I spoke to him, he made the statement that KNest is focused on making real estate greener, leaner, and cleaner. So I'm going to ask you, how do you achieve this quote-unquote greener, cleaner, and leaner models for real estate projects?
So ma'am, that's our vision, that we want to make real estate cleaner, leaner, and greener. We are into a technology product of formwork, aluminium formwork. This product has replaced plywood. Ply, which was used on the site for casting a slab or a column. Now, this ply, after 6-7 repetitions, is usually thrown out. It's a waste. And there is no recycling system for that. It's only used for burning. So that's again like producing more CO2. We have managed to replace that in a big way. Now, there's a challenge that India has, say, 3% of the land space of the world, and the population is like 17%. So we have to go high-rise. And the development is there to come. Now, the only worry is if we develop it by cutting trees, then I think we are in a soup. So that is where we are playing a vital role. All the developers who are taking responsibility of understanding the sustainability model are working with us, and we are helping them do a high-rise building, which is very fast and in good quality. There's something which is known as river sand. River sand is used to plaster the building from outer side. By using a good formwork, if you don't use the river sand, you are actually protecting the rivers. So, we are working, this river sand on the site is again a waste after the usage. So, we are trying to keep the real estate place clean. With formwork, you get accurate measurements of the flat, the windows, the doors. You can directly order it and fit it. So again, there is no wastage on site. So that's how it's cleaner, greener, and leaner. Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm told we just have another 5 minutes to go. So this is going to be like a firing round. So Dr. Sunita, can you just name a couple of projects from Mahindra Lifespace which can be model projects which we can look up to in terms of waste management? So I think the rest of us can Google it and then go through the project, because frankly, I would have loved Dr. Sunita to elaborate on them, but looks like we would have to cut it short.
I'll name a few projects. One project called Bangalore, in Eden, 90% diversion away from landfill. That's a residential project.
That's
we
wonderful.
have India's first zero waste to landfill city, which is World City Chennai. So these are two projects which we must visit.
Yes, we will. And maybe sometime later we can have a presentation, more elaborate. Yeah. Shabnam, how do you think we can, are there any areas where you need to strengthen the certification codes, let us say, or your, the questions that you ask in your certification program related to waste management, especially in real estate projects?
Yes, so I feel that,
Currently, how many questions do you have related to waste management in the certification? Currently, how many points do you have related to waste management?
I think we have roughly 10 points in various sections that we have linked to waste. And, it is a reflection that, Griha has laid a lot of importance to this section, and, we are really taking it very seriously. But I think one point that I would like to leave away, in this conversation is that, I think we need to identify where the problem is. It's not that the policies are not there. It's not that, the government has not done it bit. But I think what is missing is in the entire value chain. I think like Dr. Makhija just mentioned that, we need to bring in, everyone will have to be participative, and, we will have to sensitize, not only the government organizations, rating organizations, but also, even Sunita mentioned that, the designers are, least bothered about how we design buildings. So, the entire community will have to be sensitized, including the people to whom these buildings are handed over. So I think there has to be a proper mechanism how we want the waste to be looked at, and how we want, because it is not something that, can be managed in one day. It is something that is a cyclic process. We are generating waste on daily basis. So one is that. And, the second point is that, there are enough resources. I will not say that the government has not put in that resources, but, for us to, have that kind of lifestyle changes and also look at how our mindset changes to these resources is also a very critical part. So I'll leave at that, and will also like to hear from audience what their perception is about waste, and we would like to include that in our ratings if we can.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very sorry we do not have more time to take on the, I had actually listed 3 questions for each of my panelists, but I think I'm going to have to cut short the questions and also leave some time for the audience to maybe address the panelists. Any questions from the audience? So it doesn't look like it. Okay, so I'm just going to ask Umid Bhatia, are there any challenges for consultants and developers that you think that we can, bring it to the panel over here?
Absolutely. There are a lot of challenges, and I think it's a chicken and egg situation. Most of the corporates, they are present in multi-tenant buildings. And when you talk to them, you understand their side of the story, their challenge. They have a dumping yard of the landlord wherein they dump their waste. But then are they actually segregating their waste and dumping, and does the dumping yard have adequate space allocated for the right segregated waste to enter there and then get disposed of in the right manner? That is one challenge. And then the segregation, I think, is the biggest problem area. We do not segregate the waste in the right manner, and it goes back to the land. So those are the 2 challenges that you deal with.
Yeah, thank you so much. So just to sum it up, I think all real estate developments and projects can incorporate a great deal of waste management in their design, in their processes, and in their maintenance and management of projects. Am I right, Dr. Sunita? I think this is something which all developments should do, and I think if we can get NAREDCO to commit to doing this in all their projects, and not just as, to get the certification done, so you tick mark those 10 points and say, yes, we are doing it, but to genuinely address this as an issue, because what you save doesn't end up in the landfill, and at the end of the day is what helps the city, not only in terms of keeping it more sustainable, but also helps with air pollution, which, especially Delhi suffers from, Delhi NCR. So I'll leave the panel with these thoughts, and I hope JLL's team is going to be putting together some of the points that came across on this panel and adding it. I'm very sorry, Nitin, but I really wanted to ask you what your challenges were that you faced. So maybe then, I mean, if you can just sum it up in 2 lines. I didn't want to leave without asking him what his challenges are, because what he's doing is something which does, take away a lot of waste from reaching landfills.
The only challenge we are facing is that, one is that our product is sustainable and should be a part of Griha, and that will add a lot of value. The developers should get something in benefit for using formwork, which makes their life easier in terms of cash flow. And second is, we are one of the best in the world, so Indians can be the best in the world. We want them to understand that foreign से क्योंकि formwork आ रहा है तो अच्छा है, ऐसा ज़रूरी नहीं है. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so Make in India campaign is doing great in that aspect as well. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chitra, and thank you to all the panelists for such a lovely and insightful panel discussion. Thank you, everybody. I would request all of you to kindly... Yes, apologies on that. I mean, as much as entertaining and insightful as it was, unfortunately, we have to end the panel discussion here, but not before we honor and felicitate each and every one of you. I would request Mr. Hari Babu and Dr. Bandana to kindly come up on stage to felicitate Mr. Nitin Mittal. Can we have some applause going, please? Let's get some energy in the room. Thank you. Can Mr. Hari Babu and Dr. Bandana present the award to Mr. Nitin Mittal, please? The felicitation to Mr. Nitin Mittal. And I would request each panelist to kindly come to the center of the stage where our guests are going to be felicitating them as soon as their name is announced, just for some smooth operation. Next up, I would like to request Mr. Anil Suri and Dr. Ananta to kindly come up on stage to felicitate Ms. Shabnam Basi. Ms. Shabnam, can I request you to kindly step forward so we can honor your presence here. Ma'am, you're giving it to Ms. Basi. Thank you. Can we have a big round of applause, please? Next up, I would like to call Mr. Ravi Reddy and Mr. J. Mozaria to kindly come up on stage to felicitate Dr. Ruby Makhija. Can I request Mr. J. Mozaria and Mr. Ravi Reddy? And can I also request Dr. Ruby to kindly step forward? Thank you, ma'am. Can we get some applause going, please, in the room? Thank you. There are some very prominent people who have made some very prominent points. And we just want to show our gratitude. Thank you. Next up, can I call upon Mr. Pratik Kataria and Mr. Sri Nagesh to kindly come up on stage and felicitate Dr. Sunita Purushottam. Can I request both of these gentlemen to kindly come up on stage, please? Request you if you could do it a little fast, please. Thank you. I would request Dr. Sunita to kindly step in front. And can we have some applause going in the room? Next up, I would like to call upon Sri Alok Gupta and Mr. Rishabh Sisodia to kindly come up on stage to felicitate Ms. Umid Bhatia. Can we have both of you on stage, please? And can I request Ms. Umid Bhatia to kindly step forward, as we would like to honor. Apologies on the name, Mr. Rishabh Siroya. Can we have some applause, please? Thank you. And of course, we would like to honor and felicitate our moderator who has steered the discussion so well. For that, I would like to call upon Mr. Vikas Jain and Mr. Adi Sheshan to kindly come up on stage and felicitate Ms. Chitra Jain, who had maneuvered this whole discussion so well. A big round of applause for her, please. Ma'am, can I request you to step forward?
To all our audience members, how's the Josh? Can we have a huge round of applause for this amazing session on green building and sustainability? Dear audience, please, this is one way to motivate all our panelists and distinguished guest speakers, those who have traveled from different parts of the country. They have shared the amazing knowledge with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Preeti. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this lovely discussion.
I'm just going to take a minute. Is this on?
Can we
Hello?
switch on that mic, please?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. I just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that we took away all the plastic bottles from the stage because my speakers refused to, the panelists didn't want to come on the stage if the plastic bottles were there. So I requested for glasses and water bottle. And well, just wanted to bring your attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Can I request all of you for a lovely, after the lovely photo op, can I request all of you to take your seats? Thank you for the contributions. Thank you so much. A big round of applause for our panel discussion, our panelists, and our moderator.